I'm going to show you how to make these fun mini cakes for Halloween, but any of these designs will work on bigger cakes too. To assemble a mini cake, you'll need mini cake layers. These are 4-inch cakes. Level and divide your cake layers and then assemble the cake on a cake board so it's on a flat surface. I'll show you how to transfer the cake to a cake stand or platter later. You can use whatever fillings you like for these. I'm using my 4-Minute Buttercream tinted orange for this cake because it's going to be a pumpkin, or actually no, a jack-o'-lantern. It's always a good idea to apply a crumb coat first, which is a thin layer of frosting to trap any crumbs that come off the cake, and let that set for 30 minutes in the fridge or 15 minutes in the freezer before applying your final coat of frosting. Once it's nice and smooth, put the cake in the fridge for an hour or the freezer for 30 minutes so that this frosting gets really cold and firm. And meanwhile, make your own cake stencil using a piece of parchment paper or wax paper or baking paper. Draw a jack-o'-lantern face with a pencil, which is the easiest to use on parchment paper because pen doesn't work very well because of the coating on the paper. Cut the design out, and when the frosting on the cake is firm, place the stencil on top and spread black frosting over it. I share all of my tips for tricky frosting colours like black frosting in a tutorial, and the link is at the top of the screen and in the video description. Cover the whole design and then scrape off the excess to smooth it. Peel the stencil off straight away, and voila! A creepy jack-o'-lantern cake. Next up, a mummy cake. Spread or pipe a dot of frosting onto the middle of the cake board and press the first cake layer into that, which holds the cake in place while you frost it. This is especially important for mini cakes like these because they weigh so little that with just a bit of pressure from your offset spatula or cake comb, they'll slip and slide all over the cake board if you don't attach them with something. Cover the cake with a crumb coat, let it set or chill it to speed up the setting process, and then spread black frosting over an area on the top, which is going to be sticking out from between the mummy's bandages. Pipe 2 big dots of yellow frosting for the eyes, or you could use green or red or whatever colour you like. I used a 1A piping tip for these dots. Smooth them with an offset spatula and then dip a toothpick into the black frosting and poke it into each dot to make the black centres of the eyes. I think it's easiest to pipe bandages around the sides of the cake first, using a petal tip or a flat petal tip or a ribbon tip. You can crisscross these if you want to, and you can hold the petal tip either way round for these, with the narrow part of the teardrop shape facing upwards or downwards. The wide end makes a thicker bandage, and the narrow end gives the bandage a more ruffly edge. So you can choose which one you prefer to be facing upwards, which is more visible. For the top, I like to outline the eyes first, and then you can touch up the lines with an offset spatula to nudge them or smooth them, to make sure you've covered up the edges of that black patch. Then I like to pipe a ribbon around the curve at the bottom of the mummy to make sure that's covered up, and then fill in the rest of the top of the cake. This is a fun design because it doesn't need to be perfectly neat, which takes the pressure off as you're decorating. For this next mini Halloween cake, cover a cake with black frosting, or dark purple would look great too. For black frosting that won't stain your teeth, check out my tutorial on 4 hacks for tricky frosting colours, and the link is in the top of the screen and in the video description. Chill the frosting in the fridge for an hour or the freezer for 30 minutes so it's very firm, and then place a spiderweb stencil on top. Intricate stencils like this are too detailed to make yourself with parchment paper, but you can find them online. This one is made by Sweet Stamp, and I'll put my discount code in the video description. Spread plain white frosting on top, scrape off the excess with an offset spatula, and then peel the stencil off to leave a perfectly detailed spiderweb behind. Now I'll show you how to add finishing touches and how to transfer these cakes to cake stands. After chilling the cakes so the frosting is very firm, slide an offset spatula underneath the cake and all the way around to loosen the bottom of the frosting from the cake board. Make sure you slice through the dot of buttercream in the middle of the cake board too, since that's holding the cake in place. Then lift the cake up and move it onto a cake stand. A few tips for this. Have your cake stand or platter ready right next to the cake before you move it, so you have the shortest distance to travel with the cake. After you push your offset spatula underneath the cake, hold it still as you spin your turntable but push down to make sure the bottom edge of the frosting on the cake stays straight. You might be able to balance the cake on your offset spatula when you lift it, without using anything else, but you will need to use your fingers or another utensil to push the cake off the spatula and onto the cake stand. If you've chilled your cake properly before doing this, so the frosting is very firm, that pressure from your fingers or a utensil isn't going to damage the frosting because it will hold its shape and you won't leave any texture or imprints in it. If you want to add any borders around the bottom of the cakes, do this after transferring the cakes to their cake stands. This is a tiny number 18 tip for this spiderweb cake, and for this jack-o'-lantern cake I'm using a slightly bigger number 199 open star tip. I hope this tutorial has been useful. Tell me in the comments which mini Halloween cake is your favourite, and check out my online cake school for hundreds of cake decorating techniques and designs on BritishGirlBakes.com. Thanks for watching.